stocks, and I know Pavitra has been looking at some of the interesting trends as well. I think we have the management of South Indian Bank that's joining in. Now, the South Indian Bank is one stock that's not participating in the mid-cap up move. The stock has been down almost 13 to 14% since the morning, and that is when South Indian Bank actually informed to the stock exchanges that Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, MD and CEO of the bank, has made a request not to offer himself for a reappointment. And that suddenly got the market nervous. I think we have the man of the moment himself, Mr. Ramakrishnan, I think is on the line. Let's see if we can go across to him now. Yeah, Mr. Ramakrishnan, good morning and thanks for taking this call, sir. So obviously the market has gotten very rattled because it didn't see this coming. Let me start with first things first. What is the reason why you are not looking at a reappointment? Would you be completing the entire term? What's the transition? And I think that more importantly, the market will wonder what the continuity plan is going to be from here on.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Just to clarify, my term actually ends in September 2023. So I'll be completing working till my full term, and I'm not seeking for reappointment for the next term. So he still has 6 more months, and I'll continue to carry out the initiatives which has been taken over the last last couple of years, and we will take it to the next level. So therefore, just to clarify, I'm not quitting. I'm actually completing my term and not seeking reappointment for the next term. As far as the new incumbent is concerned, that is something which the process is just about to start. So I'll be working very closely with our NRC in choosing the next candidate, who will be obviously I'll have some overlap in terms of working closely with a new person to ensure that the initiatives and whatever changes which have been brought about are continuing to be happening in the bank, and we'll ensure that the whatever we set out to do, we indeed make progress in all those parameters and ensure that the bank is put.
But sir, your decision to not seek a reappointment after your term ends in September, is that purely a personal decision, or is there any professional element to it as well?
Absolutely no professional element. I mean, it's purely personal. I just wanted to go and spend time with family. The board has been extremely supportive, and obviously the kind of changes which I have been able to make with the in the organization is with the complete support of board and complete support of the entire employee workers. So there is zilch issue in terms of anything professionally. It's purely professional, purely personal. Sorry.
Okay. Sir, you're a part of the NRC, the Nomination and Remuneration Committee. Can you tell us if you've identified any potential candidates for the CEO MD role? And what, according to you, is the appropriate overlap to ensure a smooth transition? When do you think you will be able to appoint a new leader at the top?
See, we have just started the process. In fact, the announcement was made yesterday, and we have just appointed an agency to start the process. So clearly, the idea is to ensure that the competent person is selected, and he or she has to have some overlap so that the transition happens very smoothly. The endeavor is to ensure that all the initiatives taken are smoothly transitioned, and the new person takes complete charge of taking it to the next level. If you ask me what is the ideal overlap period, there is nothing like that, but typically I think 3 to 4 months is good enough period for anyone who has got experience of running the bank to really be on top of the changes which are happening and to take it to the next level. So,
which agency, sir, have you appointed?
Sorry?
Which agency have you appointed to help look for a new candidate?
We have appointed Hunt Partners for this search.
Hunt Partners. Okay, and external and internal candidates are being evaluated?
Yes, I think they will obviously they will scout for candidates in the market also, and obviously there will be an element of looking internally also if people can be looked at for holding this job. And I'll be closely involved in the process with the support of NRC. So it will be a process which is just come in. So clearly it's too early for me to even share anything because it just started yesterday. So you can that too late evening. So you can imagine there's nothing which I can share as of now. If you ask me whether it makes sense to look at internal and external candidates, obvious answer is yes. And we will obviously look for people who have got experience of handling complexity, because as banking scenario is going through a bit of challenges, etc. Clearly, a person who has to take it to the next level must have had the experience of handling such complexities. So these are some of the things which are obviously very basic for choosing the right candidate.
All right, very, very early stages of trying to find the next candidate. Mr. Ramakrishna, thanks a lot for joining us. This is Pavitra. Just one question. While I know that it's very early, you just started yesterday, like you were pointing out, is there any kind of broad timeline that you're working with by when you would like to finalize a candidate? Because like you said, there are 6 months left. You do want to ensure that smooth transition. Is there any kind of timeline that you have in mind by when you would like to have a candidate in place?
Yeah, ideally, we would ideally it makes sense to have at least 3 to 4 months of overlap. So if we start the process, my guess is that it will take at least a month and a half to choose the right candidate. And also, that anyone who we choose, in case we choose people from market, they will have their own requirements in terms of if they are working with somebody, obviously there will be notice period, there will be a gardening period, all that will be there. So frankly, it's too early to speculate as to when the person would be able to join. But given a choice, obviously we would want to have the person as early as possible. The more the overlap, better for the institution, because then we can actually take the person also through some of the big initiatives which I am doing currently. There are changes which are being done even now as I am talking to you. And I'll obviously continue to put everything which we have initiated to be in place by September before I before I leave the organization. So the earliest the person comes, better for the organization. Yes, obviously 3 to 4 months will be a good enough period for a seasoned professional to take it forward.
So as the bank goes through this management transition, Mr. Ramakrishnan, let me ask you what your priorities will be over the next 2 quarters as you sort of, make your way out, as well as your advice and I think the strategy for the new person who will come in. I was looking at the third quarter performance. I mean, loan growth was not a problem at all. You were touching almost 20% loan growth. NPAs were falling, but one can argue still at about 5.5%. They were slightly high. And I think deposit mobilization is something that, the entire system, a lot of the mid-level banks are really struggling with that. And we saw some element of that in the third quarter numbers. So again, just to go back to my question, next 2 quarters, what is the task you set out for yourself, as well as the handover that you'll give to the new person coming in?
See, the focus for the next quarters will be continuation of what I have been articulating in my strategy document. See, if you recall, we made a strategy document which was supposed to be till March 24. And due to COVID, etc., we extended some of the parameters to be reached by March 25. So, if you recall, there were 2 pressing issues when I took charge. One was capital adequacy, the other one was PCR. Now, both are obviously, we are now much better off than what we started with. Our capital adequacy is comfortable at 16.25. Our PCR is fairly decent now. Excluding write-off, we are at about 62%. So the endeavor is to obviously take them to the first milestone of reaching 70% excluding write-off, and including write-off, we would want to be at least 75% plus. NPA levels, clearly the endeavor is to bring it down below 2% net NPA level. And we would also want to continue to grow our NIM. The target is to reach 3.5%. I had given a guideline of reaching 3.2% by March, and we are well on track to reach that. And asset growth for the coming year, we are sort of estimating that we would want to grow at least 2 times what the GDP growth would be. If you go by the estimates, it will be anywhere from 6 to 6.5% is what we are anticipating. So 12 to 13% kind of growth is what we will definitely plan for the coming year in terms of asset growth. As far as liability is concerned, I just want to make a small correction. I consciously took a decision not to go for bulk deposits. So I've been in the process of granularizing my deposit right from the time I took charge. So if you look at my retail deposit growth, it's been happening quite well, and it is in tune with what market has been growing. It's only because of our stated strategy to granularize our deposit that you are seeing the overall deposit growth being lower than what market is doing. So if you factor retail alone, we are fairly comfortable. And of course, with the repo rates going up over the last 6 quarters, clearly there is a upward revision of 2.5% in terms of repo rate. So we have been continuously repricing both our liabilities and assets to ensure that our NIM continues to be taken care, and we are obviously ensuring that our deposit holders are in the money and they are continuing to make a good income. So that's a continuous...
Mr. Ramakrishnan, sorry, I'm just going to clarify the number. You mentioned 2% NPA. You're talking about at the net level, and by when do you see yourself going to 2% NPA?
Next two quarters.
Next 2 quarters. And NIM, if I heard you correctly, I think you said 3.4%, but that's a March...
3.5% for next March and 3.2% for this March, for this month end.
3.2% for this March. And finally, just leave us with an outlook on loan growth as well. Is it as robust as what we saw in the third quarter? How do you see the next 2 quarters shape up?
No, actually, if you see in the market, there has been a bit of slowdown in the asset growth also from October onwards. If you when the liquidity situation started becoming tight, etc., asset growth has been coming down a little bit compared to the past. The guidance which I gave was 12 to 13% kind of growth in asset also for the year ending March 23. I think we will probably be reaching that kind of level. Obviously, it won't be as good as 18-19% which we were seeing in the first 2 quarters. Obviously, our base was also quite low. Since the entire transition in the last year, our base was quite low. We actually started growing quite well from the December of last year to the March of last year. So the huge growth started happening after my restructuring of the asset and liability. We witnessed that from December of 21 till March 22. Therefore, the base was quite high for the 4th quarter. Considering that base, I am sticking to my guidance of 12 to 13% kind of growth for the full year, for this year ending March.
12 to 14%. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramakrishnan, for joining in. We look forward to hearing more from South Indian Bank about the next CEO MD appointment and chatting with you before you, hang your boots. Thank you very much for joining in.